his Father God, Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father God, Allah. Know thyself and Allah, the genealogy of Jesus, life and works of Jesus in India, Europe, and Africa, in the land of Egypt. Noble Jew Ali, the prophet and founder of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, to redeem the people from their sinful ways. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims. Hope all is well. At this point, I would like to yield the floor to our Grand Sheikh for chapter 29.
Islam. Islam, brother. Gratitude. Just wanted to, before I started talking, just make sure everyone can hear. Okay. All right, gratitude. Before we get started, I just want to rise and give praise to Allah, our sustainer, our creator. I want to give honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality. Also extending honors to the forerunner to the prophet, our brother, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I want to extend honors to all Moorish leadership, past and present, including but not limited to our Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother Kinu Bey, and his family and staff. I want to extend honors to all the faithful Muslims here on this holy day, all members of Temple 30, Islam, honors to you. Also extending honors to our chairman, Brother Cole Bey. And let's go ahead and get things started up here, Moors. I wanted to speak on chapter 29 from the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that is Magistrate and Subject. Before we go into that, though, really just want to hit on just briefly what we talked about last week, where we spoke on holy instructions from the prophet, master and servant. So magistrate and subject, master and servant, obviously these are two related topics, okay? And it's important for us to understand them, because when we go back into master and servant, right, it's giving us the sacred dynamics of servitude and mastery. And it shows this servitude and mastery are reflections of our relationship with Allah. And in there, it highlights fidelity, right? Loyalty. It highlights obedience, and it highlights justice. And when we master those holy and divine instructions, right, now it helps us to elevate our own character, and it makes it so that we can live harmoniously in the community. Because just keeping it real, do you want to live in a Moorish community just with Moors, just how it is? Maybe, but there's a whole lot of stuff that we're going to be dealing with that we don't want to. It isn't all cool, right? So like we have to go into communities where it's Asiatics, and we want to make it better. We want to improve it, because it's not good enough how it is. Because our people just copied the ways of the pale-skinned Europeans, and they're doing it from their own perspective, right? And they're doing it from the identity that was put on them by the Europeans, and it ain't good enough. It just isn't good enough. So the prophet gave us these divine instructions, right? These holy instructions, so that we can raise it up to a higher level now. So that now we're not just copying, repeating what's been done to us, and then acting like that's good enough. Pardon more. So we want to understand the spiritual. Pardon one second, Morris. All right, Islam, pardon that. So as we go into this chapter 29, we want to understand the spiritual significance of what's in here. And when we do this, we're not saying that the practical meaning is not important. We're not saying that at all. We just want to have a well-rounded view. We want to know the spiritual meaning, the hidden meaning, and we also want to know what's right there in our face. So when we look in the spiritual significance of chapter 29, now we can apply these higher qualities to ourselves, right? Bring about our own divine attributes. That's a thing that nobody's telling us. That's the thing we're not getting in school. You're definitely not getting it in TV, in the media, on social media. It's not, none of this stuff is trying to bring out your divine attributes. That's not cool. That's not what's getting promoted. It's all trying to bring about low attributes. It's like there's a video with Kanye West talking about how they use that 808 bass drum to keep everybody stuck in their lower chakra, and it works. And Kanye West know what he's talking about because he's producer. He made hit records. This is what's done. And so nobody's trying to bring out our divine attributes except for the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So we want to apply these lessons to our personal, to our community, and our national life as a whole. And as we go into here too, we want to understand the significance and why the Prophet wanted us to understand the relationship between magistrates and subjects. Magistrates and subjects, that's leaders and citizens. We need to understand this and its relevance to our lives as Moorish Americans, because there's a divine order in governance and service. So we want to be able to implement this because we can't copy it from what we see. It's not good enough. And I don't have to tell you that this government is corrupt. And it's not like it's just the governments of the Europeans is corrupt. All this stuff is corrupt. There's nowhere for you to go and just copy, say, okay, I like what they're doing. Let's do that. No. You go to Jamaica. They just stopped wearing these stupid wigs in their parliament. I think they stopped. People started complaining recently, right? Their House of Representatives, they're putting on those wigs. They weren't doing that 1,000 years ago. They started doing that after the British set up their colony there, right? And they got all types of corruption going on. Just as corrupt as it is here. And it's like that across the board. You go to Zimbabwe, they still doing it, the same thing. Even though people are starting to wake up and starting to get angry at this. They're starting to say, why are y'all doing this? This is stupid, right? So they're still doing it all over Africa, all over the world. It's corrupt. We can't copy what anyone else is doing. We can't copy what other Muslims are doing. We have to follow these divine instructions from our prophet. And that's why if there's any more who has a problem with the temple and with all that, go on somewhere, man. This is what you want to do. You want to tell me you're more, but you want to put on a stupid wig or something like that. This is what they're doing. They want to copy and keep doing what the pale skinned nations of Europe are doing. They want to be Moors, but still act like what they see going on in the world today, which is all lower self. So we're not trying to copy this. We're not doing what anyone else is doing. We're doing our own thing. We're returning to the ways of our ancient forefathers and foremothers. Okay? And we have to do it. And there's no, like was trying to say when I showed those pictures, there's no other people in the world that we can look at and say, hey, they have a righteous government. They have righteous communities. They have righteous homes. The way they treat each other in their homes, that we can learn from them. No, there's no one. All right. We have to follow these divine instructions from our prophet. That's why the prophet instituted that, hey, all Muslims all over the world hold to the holy day. So we need to do just like everyone else. And we need to study these divine instructions because we don't know what time it is. Nobody does. All right. And so now when we come in and we learn the true relationship or the divine relationship, that all of these roles we play in society, even as magistrate and subject, these are roles that we switch throughout the day sometimes. In addition to within our society, having leaders, okay? But yeah, we have to throw all that corruption off. We have to wash our minds of the garbage and open ourselves up to the truth, to divine light. And so as we go into magistrate and subject, we'll read this, and then we'll just go back verse by verse to break it down, gain further insight into what's being shared with us. O thou, the favorite of heaven, whom thy sons of men, thy equals, whom the sons of men, thy equals, have agreed to raise to sovereign power and set as a ruler over themselves. Consider the ends and importance of their trust, far more than the dignity and height of thy station. Pretty evident what's being, shared here, right? This leadership, it's not some privilege. It's not something for you for personal gain. Because in this world, see, I'll use the United States as an example, but I show those pictures because it doesn't matter if you go to Thailand, doesn't matter if you go to Barbados, you go to Nigeria, wherever you go, they all got the same corrupt problems. So in this world, when people get into these positions of power, whether they're Congress, state representative, like in the Senate, the governor, especially the national positions like the president, but even in the local positions, the mayor, city council, right? They're dealing with corruption. They have all these outside influences that come in instead of following these divine instructions, which we have, which is to always remember, consider the ends and importance of their trust. Whose trust? The sons of men, thy equals, who have agreed to raise you to sovereign power, right? You're not any more important than them. You have a job to do, right? But in this world, when people get in those positions, whether it's local city council or especially in a city this big, in Columbus City Council, or in a, even higher position, maybe at the state level, Congress or Senate, they immediately have people, offering them money to take this bribe, to do this, right? Instead of looking out after the people. So within our society, that's supposed to be X'd out. That ain't this corruption, this potentially being bribed and all that stuff. That's not even supposed to be a problem and issue for us, because leadership is a divine trust. That's why it says, "O thou, the favorite of heaven," right? The favorite of heaven. It's a divine trust. It's not for personal gain. It's not some privilege. The leaders are chosen to reflect the divine order, and we're held accountable for this service to who? To humanity. All right? So, for us, that's not even supposed to be an issue at all, talking about corruption. We have to uphold this trust. And this is something that, in the leadership position, but also just in life, period. We don't weigh any position that we have. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a little position within the temple. It doesn't matter what it is, right? We're not trying to hold on to any of those positions and titles and act like it gives you some prominence. No, with it comes more work. It means you have a job to do, to look out for the people. So when we go into verse 2, thou art clothed in purple and seated on a throne. The crown of majesty investeth thy temples. The scepter of power is placed in thy hand. But not for thyself were these ensigns given, not meant for thine own good, but the good of thy kingdom. So these material symbols of leadership, they don't show, things for self-glorification. They signify responsibility. You have more responsibility, right? They weren't given for you for thyself, right? They're not meant for thine own good, but for the good of the kingdom. So the scepter, the throne, all these things symbolize service to the people. When you go into the Bible and the scriptures, you look at Matthew 23, verse 11. What does it say? It says, the greatest among you will be your servant. And so this also for us to keep in mind, we're not, when we agree to raise one of us to sovereign power, it's not, this person's most popular. I like this person, right? I like this person's tattoos or something stupid, right? The greatest among you shall be your servant. We want the person who's going to be honest, who's going to do the work for the people, who knows to put the good of the people over, even over their own good. and to understand that these positions of power come with responsibility. They might not even want those positions because they don't want all that work to have to do. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. His power and dominion rest on the hearts of his subjects. Once again, is hammering this truth home. That true power is in love, it's in unity, and it's in service. So for us, leaders reflect the divine when they prioritize the well-being of their own people. Right? That's the only time. And we have priest kings. Why? Because we're returning to the ways of our ancestors. We don't separate our religion from who we are, from our government, we don't separate any of that stuff. All right. When you go to going back to the scriptures in the Bible, when you go to Proverbs 29 verse 2, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And so once again, it's just setting the tone, bringing it back like to the divine roles that we have. And this is magistrate and subject. So it's going to be given a relationship for both, not just the leaders, but also the citizens or the subjects. All right. Because in this world that we're in, they have no problem placing the leaders on this pedestal, even saying that the leaders are more connected to God than everyone else. They do this. You might think that that's outdated because they did it in the past. They'll say the king was an earthly representative of God. They're still doing it today. They're doing it with Trump, right? A lot of the people who are really big on Trump, to them, he's like the second coming of Christ, right? And so this is something that's still important for us to understand in this day and time, that both magistrate and subject, both the leaders and the citizens, have a divine role to play. We have a divine role to play. And so this is important because you still have people too that are pushing this leadership, role for themselves, where they acting like they're more important than everyone else. You still have that going on today, like personality worship. And especially like with all this social media stuff, people want to get all the glory. They want to get all the money. You even had in the past where you had not too long ago, there was a guy, Malachi York, and not to, say anything real bad about him, but we do have to tell the truth. If anybody knows about Malachi York, he pushed himself as the leader guy, more connected to the creator than now, right? He's the original. He was the original everything. He's the original descendant of the Prophet Muhammad from Sudan, from Egypt, also descendant from Ben York over here, who was leading Lewis and Clark. He was everything to his people. And that's the personality worship. And that's the saying that the leaders, they're the ones connected to God. They're the ones that's up there, right? And you don't want to get caught up in something like that. We don't push any of that mess. Where's the nearest place you can meet Allah? All of us are supposed to know the answer to that. The nearest place we can meet Allah is in the heart. Islam, brother. And so, yeah, definitely you see somebody pumping up how great they are, all this stuff. You got to be careful because they're trying to get all your money. They're trying to, pump themselves, so that you're worshiping them. Even all the images that they show you and draw, everything's going to look like them when you really look into it. So, but just getting back into this, right? So the prophet is showing us how to conduct ourselves, because magistrate and subject are roles that we all play throughout the day, throughout our lives, but then also how to conduct ourselves in our own communities and in our nation. Okay, so going in here, let's look at verses 4 through 6. The mind of a great prince is exalted with the grandeur of his station. He evolveth high things and searcheth for business worthy of his power. He calleth together the wise men of his kingdom. He consulteth among them with freedom. and heareth the opinions of them all. He looketh among his people with discernment. He discovereth the abilities of men and employeth them according to their merits. Right? So in our society, the wise leaders are surrounding themselves with wisdom and discernment. Right? They're recognizing the divine potential in others. Right? They're not trying to take all the credit for everything that's happening. They're not trying to do everything themselves to make it seem like everything comes from them, right? Because this is really the only way to cultivate wisdom, right? So we're looking at, looking to see, what gifts other people have and try to make sure that they are able to shine, allowing others to shine. All right. When you look at that word wisdom, right? Because it's speaking about wisdom in here. In the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, it defines wisdom as intuitive knowing the voice of God within us, right? So we know the nearest place we can meet Allah is within the heart. So we're looking within each other to see what our gifts are and allow other people to shine. Coming back into this verse 7, his magistrates are just, his ministers are wise, and the favorite of his bosom deceiveth him not. He smileth on the arts and they flourish. The sciences improve beneath the culture of his hand. With the learned and ingenious, he delighteth himself. He kindleth in their breasts emulation, and the glory of his kingdom is exalted by their labors. Just saying, once again, showing how a divine leader, right? We're fostering creativity and knowledge. And we always, we recognize the role that people with these different gifts play in uplifting civilization, right? So we're encouraging creativity, encouraging learning, and knowing, understanding this benefits the entire community. Going to verse 10 says, the spirit of the merchant who extendeth his commerce, the skill of the farmer who enricheth his lands, the ingenuity of the artist, the improvements of the scholar, all these he honoreth with his favor, or rewardeth with his bounty. He planteth new colonies, he buildeth strong ships, he openeth rivers for convenience, he formeth harbors for safety. His people abound in riches, and the strength of his kingdom increaseth. He frameth his statutes with equity and wisdom. His subjects enjoy the fruit of their labor in security, and their happiness consists of the observance of the law. Right? So once again, showing us how to encourage progress and innovation, because these are the standards that we are supposed to, as Moorish American Muslims, see for righteous leadership. Right? And then equity is in here, because equity ensures that the fruits of the labor are being shared among all for the entire community. Right? So it's not just for a few. It's not just for some. And this is also how we bring about justice and equality. When you look in the Holy Koran of Mecca, Surah 4, verse 135, we're to stand out firmly for justice. This is the only way truly to ensure justice, for all. So moving forward, verse 13. Hang on, Morris. All right, verse 13. He founded his judgments on the principle of mercy. But in the punishment of offenders, he is strict and impartial. His ears are open to the complaints of his subjects. He restraineth the hands of their oppressors. He restraineth the hands of their oppressors, and he delivereth them from their tyranny. All right. So in here, mercy, you get mercy and justice in there. And they have to coexist in leadership. And the punishment is then balanced out with impartiality and divine wisdom, right? So we, in all aspects of our life, we include Islam. We don't, separate this from anything that we're doing. Just to round this up, going to verse 15, his people therefore look up to him as a father. With reverence and love, they consider him as the guardian of all they enjoy. Their affection unto him begetteth in his breast a love of the public. The security of their happiness is the object of his care. No murmurs against him arise in their hearts. The machinations of his enemies endanger not the state. His subjects are faithful and firm in his cause. They stand in his defense as a wall of brass. The army of a tyrant flieth before them as chaff before the wind. Security and peace bless the dwelling of his people, and glory and strength encircle his throne forever. We don't base, our societies off of intimidation, threats, any of the other things that we see going on today, right? The people love, honor, and respect the leaders because the leaders look out for them. Relationship described as look up to him as a father because this is the relationship that we're calling on with Allah, right? In our prayer, we got protection, guidance, and salvation, right? So this means that the leader is acting in this role for the community, no matter how big or small, looking out for the well-being of the people no matter what. So a true leader is going to inspire love and loyalty and unity among the people. And that's the relationship that's supposed to reflect that relationship that we have between Allah and humanity, right? So we're supposed to do this because it creates security and peace within our own societies. And this chapter is included in the Quran, just like the chapter before, speaking about master and servant, because it's emphasizing how our government is supposed to be structured, as well as how we're supposed to conduct ourselves within our households, right? But also on a greater portion with our communities, right? There's a divine structure. And if we're acting in this way, we will be able to uplift humanity, right? Because obviously we'll be uplifting ourselves and showing the way. I was just showing the example earlier with the other nations in the world because we can't look to anyone else to learn from. We have to create the example by following our prophet. And you know why? The prophet came to a people who had lost all. We had fallen away from all of our ancient ways, right? And so when we look at this with the magistrate, it's that divine role ideally will be representing Allah's justice and mercy and ensuring that balance and harmony prevail. So the leaders, on a daily basis are supposed to emulate divine qualities of justice, mercy, and love. The citizens, the subjects should honor righteous leadership, right? And in doing so, they're fostering unity and trust. And then each individual also has a role as a leader in their own circle, their own sphere of influence. Because we all play these roles throughout the day. Everyone has to, play that role as a leader at some point in time. So we're all supposed to take that role on, right? And now we're reflecting divine principles throughout the day, throughout our actions. Right? So it's not like you can be like, oh, that's just for the leaders to do. Nah, that's a sacred trust, leadership. And so that means, whether you're a leader in your family, your household, you could be a leader on the basketball team. You could be a leader. It doesn't matter where it is. Even if it's just something temporary for the day, right? It's a sacred trust. We have to reflect divine qualities. Justice and mercy are in here because it's essential, not just for governing, but also for personal relationships. So there's no way out of it. Everybody has to, take these higher aspects on. All right. And just showing that because within this chapter, we have a spiritual blueprint for leadership and for governing. And this ensures our prosperity. You don't have to wonder or worry, like, is this going to work? I don't think it's going to work. I don't think we're going to have the things we need. Nah, if we don't have the things we need, it's because we aren't reflecting these divine principles. If we're doing this, it's going to work. It's going to be superior to anything we've ever seen before. And we have to understand then that leadership is it's not some privilege. It's not for self-gratification, because when you're in that position, you have to reflect these divine principles. You can't be on some, some foolishness, right? So just wanted to hit on that briefly, just to make sure we all understand, why this is in here. Because we don't want to just copy and paste what we see going on around us. It's not good enough. Just in closing though, just some ways that we can apply these divine instructions in our life, understanding that the magistrate is not just the ruler, that's the caretaker for the community. That's the caretaker of justice, peace, and prosperity. Any leadership position we have means extra work, means more responsibility on your shoulders, right? And so we want to embody that in everyday life, because we also know that those leadership roles aren't just for official titles. We all have this influence, whether it's in your family or your community, right? Could be at work, anywhere. So it happens throughout life. So we all need to embody the leadership principles, right? And you know, just embody those divine instructions that are in there. Then also for leadership, like about seeking wisdom, seeking counsel. We want to surround ourselves with wise and trustworthy people who can help guide us in making balanced decisions. We don't want to just have a circle of friends who, they all gonna be trying to influence us to do stupid stuff. So all of those instructions are actually for each and every one of us. Um, and then that's really it on this. I'll just say the same thing that I say every class, which would be that we all want to balance ourselves out, make sure that we're putting aside time for recognizing our higher aspect of ourself, our higher self spirit, which is one with Allah. And that's why I would advise everybody to start meditating, praying, at least when you wake up and go to sleep, at least, right? And that's it, Morris. I will yield the floor back over to our chairman, Islam. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to speak. I yield the floor.
Islam, Grand Sheik, and gratitude for that great demonstration. And at this point, I'm opening up the floor for any questions, any announcements. I yield the floor. All right, more. I'd like to announce without further ado that we'll be going into the closing of the meeting. The divine instruction, the covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days will be longer earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah have given thee. Come all ye Asiatics of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefather ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the families of nations. We honor all the true and divine prophets. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn and love instead of hate, and to know of the higher self and lower self. This is uplifting of the Holy Koran of Mecca for the teaching and instructions for all Moorish Americans, etc. The Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple. Know thyself and your Father God Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree. The uniting of Asia. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. At this point, I would like to go into the closing prayer more. If we are able to, can we please rise and face the east, feet in a 45-degree angle, 2 fingers to the right, 5 to the left. You do not have to repeat after me. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name in the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims. This meeting is now adjourned. Peace and love.
Happy Holy Day. Happy Holy Day. Peace and love.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Peace and love.